Welcome to Soft Hour Library. Tonight's story begins now. Close your eyes and rest.
Chapter 24. Bundle Wonders. There was no doubt that Superintendent Battle was taken aback. He fingered his chin thoughtfully. "Sir Oswald is right, Battle," said George. "This is the man. Any hope of catching him?" "There may be, sir. It certainly looks suspicious. Of course the man may turn up again at Chimneys, I mean." "Do you think it likely?" "No, it isn't," confessed Battle. "Yes, it certainly looks as though Bower were the man, but I can't quite see how he got in and out of these grounds unobserved." "I have already told you my opinion of the men you posted," said George. "Hopelessly inefficient. I don't want to blame you, Superintendent, but his pause was eloquent." "Ah, well," said Battle lightly, "my shoulders are broad." He shook his head and sighed. "I must get to the telephone at once. Excuse me, gentlemen. I'm sorry, Mr. Lomax, I feel I've rather bungled this business. But it's been puzzling, more puzzling than you know." He strode hurriedly from the room. "Come into the garden," said Bundle to Jimmy. "I want to talk to you." They went out together through the window. Jimmy stared down at the lawn, frowning. "What's the matter?" asked Bundle. Jimmy explained the circumstances of the pistol throwing. "I'm wondering," he ended, "what was in old Battle's mind when he got Coote to throw the pistol. Something, I'll swear. Anyhow, it landed up about 10 yards farther than it should have done. You know, Bundle, Battle's a deep one." "He's an extraordinary man," said Bundle. "I want to tell you about last night." She retailed her conversation with the superintendent. Jimmy listened attentively. "So the Countess is number one," he said thoughtfully. "It all hangs together very well. Number two, Bower comes over from Chimneys. He climbs up into O'Rourke's room, knowing that O'Rourke has had a sleeping draught administered to him by the Countess somehow or other. The arrangement is that he is to throw down the papers to the Countess, who will be waiting below. Then she'll nip back through the library and up to her room. If Bower's caught leaving the grounds, they'll find nothing on him. Yes, it was a good plan, but it went wrong. No sooner is the Countess in the library than she hears me coming and has to jump behind the screen. Jolly awkward for her because she can't warn her accomplice. Number two pinches the papers, looks out of the window, sees, as he thinks, the Countess waiting, pitches the papers down to her and proceeds to climb down the ivy, where he finds a nasty surprise in the shape of me waiting for him. Pretty nervy work for the Countess waiting behind her screen. All things considered, she told a pretty good story. Yes, it all hangs together very well." "Too well," said Bundle decidedly. "Eh?" said Jimmy, surprised. "What about number 7? No. 7, who never appears but lives in the background. The Countess and Bower. No, it's not so simple as that. Bower was here last night, yes. But he was only here in case things went wrong as they have done. His part is the part of scapegoat, to draw all attention from number 7, the boss." "I say, Bundle," said Jimmy anxiously, "you haven't been reading too much sensational literature, have you?" Bundle threw him a glance of dignified reproach. "Well," said Jimmy, "I'm not yet like the Red Queen. I can't believe 6 impossible things before breakfast." "It's after breakfast," said Bundle. "Or even after breakfast. We've got a perfectly good hypothesis which fits the facts, and you won't have it at any price, simply because, like the old riddle, you want to make things more difficult." "I'm sorry," said Bundle, "but I cling passionately to a mysterious number 7 being a member of the house party." "What does Bill think?" "Bill," said Bundle coldly, "is impossible." "Oh," said Jimmy, "I suppose you've told him about the Countess. He ought to be warned. Heaven knows what he'll go blabbing about otherwise. He won't hear a word. Against her, said Bundle. He's simply idiotic. I wish you'd drive it home to him about that mole. You forget I wasn't in the cupboard, said Jimmy. And anyway, I'd rather not argue with Bill about his lady friend's mole. But surely he can't be such an ass as not to see that everything fits in. He's every kind of ass, said Bundle bitterly. You made the greatest mistake, Jimmy, in ever telling him at all. I'm sorry, said Jimmy. I didn't see it at the time, but I do now. I was a fool, but dash it all, old Bill. You know what foreign adventuresses are, said Bundle, how they get hold of one. As a matter of fact, I don't, said Jimmy. One has never tried to get hold of me. And he sighed. For a moment or two there was silence. Jimmy was turning things over in his mind. The more he thought about them, the more unsatisfactory they seemed. You say that Battle wants the Countess let alone, he said at last. Yes. The idea being that through her he will get at someone else. Bundle nodded. Jimmy frowned deeply as he tried to see where this led. Clearly Battle had some very definite idea in his mind. Sir Stanley Digby went up to town early this morning, didn't he? He said. Yes. O'Rourke with him? Yes, I think so. You don't think? No, that's impossible. What? That O'Rourke can be mixed up in this in any way. It's possible, said Bundle thoughtfully. He's got what one calls a very vivid personality. No, it wouldn't surprise me if, to tell the truth, nothing would surprise me. In fact, there's only one person I'm really sure isn't number 7. Who's that? Superintendent Battle. Oh, I thought you were going to say George Lomax. SSH, here he comes. George was, indeed, bearing down upon them in an unmistakable manner. Jimmy made an excuse and slipped away. George sat down by Bundle. My dear Eileen, must you really leave us? Well, Father seems to have got the wind up rather badly. I think I'd better go home and hold his hand. This little hand will indeed be comforting, said George, taking it and pressing it playfully. My dear Eileen, I understand your reasons and I honor you for them, in these days of changed and unsettled conditions. He's off, thought Bundle desperately. When family life is at a premium, all the old standards falling, it becomes our class to set an example to show that we, at least, are unaffected by modern conditions. They call us the diehards. I am proud of the term. I repeat, I am proud of the term. There are things that should die hard: dignity, beauty, modesty, the sanctity of family life, filial respect. Who dies if these shall live? As I was saying, my dear Eileen, I envy you the privileges of your youth. Youth, what a wonderful thing! What a wonderful word! And we do not appreciate it until we grow to our maturer years. I confess, my dear child, that I have in the past been disappointed by your levity. I see now it was but the careless and charming levity of a child. I perceive now the serious and earnest beauty of your mind. You will allow me, I hope, to help you with your reading. Oh, thank you, said Bundle faintly. And you must never be afraid of me again. I was shocked when Lady Caterham told me that you stood in awe of me. I can assure you that I am a very humdrum sort of person. The spectacle of George being modest struck Bundle spellbound. George continued, Never be shy with me, dear child, and do not be afraid of boring me. It will be a great delight to me to, if I may say so, form your budding mind. I will be your political mentor. We have never needed young women of talent and charm in the party more than we need them today. You may well be destined to follow in the footsteps of your aunt, Lady Caterham. This awful prospect knocked Bundle out completely. She could only stare helplessly at George. This did not discourage him, on the contrary. His main objection to women was that they talked too much. It was seldom that he found what he considered a really good listener. He smiled benignantly at Bundle. The butterfly emerging from the chrysalis, a wonderful picture. I have a very interesting work on political economy. I will look it out now, and you can take it to Chimneys with you. When you have finished it, I will discuss it with you. Do not hesitate to write to me if any point puzzles you. I have many public duties, but by unsparing work I can always make time for the affairs of my friends. I will look for the book. He strode away. Bundle gazed after him with a dazed expression. She was roused by the unexpected advent of Bill. "Look here," said Bill. "What the hell was Cotters holding your hand for?" "It wasn't my hand," said Bundle wildly. "It was my budding mind." "Don't be an ass, Bundle." "Sorry, Bill, but I'm a little worried. Do you remember saying that Jimmy ran a grave risk coming down here?" "So he does," said Bill. "It's frightfully hard to escape from Cotters once he's got interested in you. Jimmy will be caught in the toils before he knows where he is." "It's not Jimmy who's got caught, it's me," said Bundle wildly. "I shall have to meet endless Mrs. Macatas and read political economy and discuss it with George, and heavens knows where it will end." Bill whistled. "Poor old Bundle. Been laying it on a bit thick, haven't you?" "I must have done. Bill, I feel horribly entangled." "Never mind," said Bill consolingly. "George doesn't really believe in women standing for Parliament, so you won't have to stand up on platforms and talk a lot of junk or kiss dirty babies in Bermondsey. Come and have a cocktail. It's nearly lunch time." Bundle got up and walked by his side obediently. "And I do so hate politics," she murmured piteously. "Of course you do. So do all sensible people. It's only people like Cotters and Pongo who take them seriously and revel in them. But all the same," said Bill, reverting suddenly to a former point, "you oughtn't to let Cotters hold your hand." "Why on earth not?" said Bundle. "He's known me all my life." "Well, I don't like it. Virtuous William O, I say, look at Superintendent Battle." They were just passing in through a side door. A cupboard-like room opened out of the little hallway. In it were kept golf clubs, tennis rackets, bowls, and other features of country house life. Superintendent Battle was conducting a minute examination of various golf clubs. He looked up a little sheepishly at Bundle's exclamation. "Going to take up golf, Superintendent Battle?" "I might do worse, Lady Eileen. They say it's never too late to start, and I've got one good quality that will tell at any game." "What's that?" asked Bill. "I don't know when I'm beaten. If everything goes wrong, I turn to and start again." And with a determined look on his face, Superintendent Battle came out and joined them, shutting the door behind him. Chapter 25. Jimmy lays his plans. Jimmy the Sidger was feeling depressed. Avoiding George, whom he suspected of being ready to tackle him on serious subjects, he stole quietly away after lunch. Proficient as he was in details of the Santa Fe boundary dispute, he had no wish to stand an examination on it this minute. Presently what he hoped would happen came to pass. Loring Wade, also unaccompanied, strolled down one of the shady garden paths. In a moment Jimmy was by her side. They walked for some minutes in silence, and then Jimmy said tentatively, "Loring." "Yes." "Look here, I'm a bad chap at putting things, but what about it? What's wrong with getting a special license and being married and living together happy ever afterwards?" Loring displayed no embarrassment at this surprising proposal. Instead, she threw back her head and laughed frankly. Don't laugh at a chap, said Jimmy reproachfully. I can't help it, you were so funny. Lauren, you are a little devil. I'm not, I'm what's called a thoroughly nice girl. Only to those who don't know you, who are taken in by your delusive appearance of meekness and decorum. I like your long words, all out of crossword puzzles. So educative. Lauren dear, don't beat about the bush, will you or won't you? Lauren's face sobered. It took on its characteristic appearance of determination. Her small mouth hardened and her little chin shot out aggressively. No, Jimmy, not while things are as they are at present, all unfinished. I know we haven't done what we set out to do, agreed Jimmy. But all the same, well, it's the end of a chapter. The papers are safe at the Air Ministry, virtue triumphant, and for the moment nothing doing. So let's get married, said Loring with a slight smile. You've said it, precisely the idea. But again, Loring shook her head. No, Jimmy, until this thing's rounded up, until we're safe. You think we're in danger, don't you? Jimmy's cherubic pink face clouded over. You're right, he said at last. If that extraordinary rigmarole of bundles is true, and I suppose, incredible as it sounds, it must be true, then we're not safe till we've settled with number 7. And the others? No, the others don't count. It's number 7 with his own ways of working that frightens me, because I don't know who he is or where to look for him. Loring shivered. I've been frightened, she said in a low voice, ever since Jerry's death. You needn't be frightened. There's nothing for you to be frightened about. You leave everything to me. I tell you, Loring, I'll get number 7 yet. Once we get him, well, I don't think there'll be much trouble with the rest of the gang, whoever they are. If you get him, and suppose he gets you. Impossible, said Jimmy cheerfully. I'm much too clever. Always have a good opinion of yourself, that's my motto. When I think of the things that might have happened. Last night, Loring shivered. Well, they didn't, said Jimmy. We're both here, safe and sound, though I must admit my arm is confoundedly painful. Poor boy. Oh, one must expect to suffer in a good cause. And what with my wounds and my cheerful conversation, I've made a complete conquest of Lady Coote. Oh, do you think that important? I've an idea it may come in useful. You've got some plan in your mind, Jimmy. What is it? The young hero never tells his plans, said Jimmy firmly. They mature in the dark. You are an idiot, Jimmy. I know, that's what everyone says. But I can assure you, Loring, there's a lot of brain work going on underneath. Now what about your plans, got any? Bundle has suggested that I should go to Chimneys with her for a bit. Excellent, said Jimmy approvingly. Nothing could be better. I'd like an eye kept on Bundle anyway. You never know what mad thing she won't be up to next. She's so frightfully unexpected. And the worst of it is, she's so astonishingly successful. I tell you, keeping Bundle out of mischief is a whole-time job. Bill ought to look after her, suggested Loring. Bill's pretty busy elsewhere. Don't you believe it, said Loring. What, not the Countess, but the lad's potty about her? Loring continued to shake her head. There's something there I don't quite understand, but it's not the Countess with Bill, it's Bundle. Why, this morning Bill was talking to me when Mr. Lomax came out and sat down by Bundle. He took her hand or something, and Bill was off like a rocket. What a curious taste some people have, observed Mr. the Sider. Fancy anyone who was talking to you wanting to do anything else. But you surprise me very much, Loring. I thought our simple Bill was enmeshed in the toils of the beautiful foreign adventuress. Bundle thinks so, I know. Bundle may, said Lauren, but I tell you, Jimmy, it isn't so. Then what's the big idea? Don't you think it possible that Bill is doing a bit of sleuthing on his own? Bill, he hasn't got the brains. I'm not so sure. When a simple, muscular person like Bill does set out to be subtle, no one ever gives him credit for it. And in consequence he can put in some good work. Yes, there's something in that. But all the same, I'd never have thought it of Bill. He's doing the Countess's little woolly lamb to perfection. I think you're wrong, Loring. The Countess is an extraordinarily beautiful woman, not my type, of course, put in Mr. the Sidger hastily, and old Bill has always had a heart like an hotel. Loring shook her head, unconvinced. Well, said Jimmy, have it your own way. We seem to have more or less settled things. You go back with Bundle to Chimneys, and for heaven's sake keep her from poking about in that 7 Dials place again. Heavens knows what will happen if she does. Loring nodded. And now, said Jimmy, I think a few words with Lady Coote would be advisable. Lady Coote was sitting on a garden seat doing wool work. The subject was a disconsolate and somewhat misshapen young woman weeping over an urn. Lady Coote made room for Jimmy by her side, and he promptly, being a tactful young man, admired her work. Do you like it? Said Lady Coote, pleased. It was begun by my Aunt Selina the week before she died. Cancer of the liver, poor thing. How beastly, said Jimmy. And how is the arm? Oh, it's feeling quite all right. Bit of a nuisance and all that, You'll have to be careful, said Lady Coote in a warning voice. I've known blood poisoning set in, and in that case you might lose your arm altogether. Oh, I say, I hope not. I'm only warning you, said Lady Coote. Where are you hanging out now? Inquired Mr. the Sidger. Town or where? Considering that he knew the answer to his query perfectly well, he put the question with a praiseworthy amount of ingenuousness. Lady Coote sighed heavily. Sir Oswald has taken the Duke of Alton's place. Leatherbury, you know it perhaps. Oh, rather topping place, isn't it? Oh, I don't know, said Lady Coote. It's a very large place and gloomy, rows of picture galleries with such forbidding-looking people. What they call old masters are very depressing, I think. You should have seen a little house we had in Yorkshire, Mr. the Sidger, when Sir Oswald was playing Mr. Coote. Such a nice lounge hall and a cheerful drawing-room with an Inglenook white striped paper with a frieze of wisteria I chose for it, I remember. Satin stripe, not moire. Much better taste, I always think. The dining room faced northeast, so we didn't get much sun in it, but with a good bright scarlet paper and a set of those comic hunting prints, why, it was as cheerful as Christmas. In the excitement of these reminiscences, Lady Coote dropped several little balls of wool, which Jimmy dutifully retrieved. Thank you, my dear, said Lady Coote. Now, what was I saying? Oh, about houses. Yes, I do like a cheerful house, and choosing things for it gives you an interest. I suppose Sir Oswald will be buying a place of his own one of these days, suggested Jimmy, and then you can have it just as you like. Lady Coote shook her head sadly. Sir Oswald talks of a firm doing it, and you know what that means. Oh, but they'd consult you. It would be one of those grand places all for the antique. They'd look down on the things I call comfortable and homey. Not but that Sir Oswald wasn't very comfortable and satisfied in his home always, and I dare say his tastes are just the same underneath. But nothing will suit him now but the best. He's got on wonderfully, and naturally he wants something to show for it, but many's the time I wonder where it will end. Jimmy looked sympathetic. It's like a runaway horse, said Lady Coote. Got the bit between its teeth and away it goes. It's the Same with Sir Oswald. He's got on and he's got on till he can't stop getting on. He's one of the richest men in England now, but does that satisfy him? No, he wants still more. He wants to be, I don't know what he wants to be. I can tell you it frightens me sometimes. Like the Persian Johnny, said Jimmy, who went about wailing for fresh worlds to conquer. Lady Coote nodded acquiescence without much knowing what Jimmy was talking about. What I wonder is, will his stomach stand it? She went on tearfully. To have him an invalid with his ideas, oh, it won't bear thinking of. He looks very hardy, said Jimmy consolingly. He's got something on his mind, said Lady Coote. Worried, that's what he is, I know. What's he worried about? I don't know, perhaps something at the works. It's a great comfort for him having Mr. Bateman, such an earnest young man and so conscientious. Marvelously conscientious, agreed Jimmy. Oswald thinks a lot of Mr. Bateman's judgment. He says that Mr. Bateman is always right. That was one of his worst characteristics years ago, said Jimmy feelingly. Lady Coote looked slightly puzzled. That was an awfully jolly weekend I had with you at Chimney's, said Jimmy. I mean, it would have been awfully jolly if it hadn't been for poor old Jerry kicking the bucket. Jolly nice girls. I find girls very perplexing, said Lady Coote. Not romantic, you know. Why, I embroidered some handkerchiefs for Sir Oswald with my own hair when we were engaged. Did you? Said Jimmy. How marvelous! But I suppose girls haven't got long enough hair to do that nowadays. That's true, admitted Lady Coote. But oh, it shows in lots of other ways. I remember when I was a girl, one of my young men picked up a handful of gravel, and a girl who was with me said at once that he was treasuring it because my feet had trodden on it. Such a pretty idea, I thought, though it turned out afterwards that he was taking a course of mineralogy, or do I mean geology, at a technical school. But I liked the idea, and stealing a girl's handkerchief and treasuring it, all those sort of things. Awkward if the girl wanted to blow her nose, said the practical Mr. the Siger. Lady Coote laid down her woolwork and looked searchingly but kindly at him. Come now, she said, isn't there some nice girl that you fancy, that you'd like to work and make a little home for? Jimmy blushed and mumbled. I thought you got on very well with one of those girls at Chimney's, that time Vera Daventry. Zogs. They do call her that, admitted Lady Coote. I can't think why it isn't pretty. Oh, she's a topper, said Jimmy. I'd like to meet her again. She's coming down to stay with us next weekend. Is she? Said Jimmy, trying to infuse a large amount of wistful longing into the two words. Yes, would you like to come? I would, said Jimmy heartily. Thanks ever so much, Lady Coote. And reiterating fervent thanks, he left her. Sir Oswald presently joined his wife. What has that young jackanapes been boring you about? He demanded. I can't stand that young fellow. He's a dear boy, said Lady Coote, and so brave. Look how he got wounded last night. Yes, messing around where he'd no business to be. I think you're very unfair, Oswald. Never done an honest day's work in his life. A real waster if there ever was one. He'd never get on if he had his way to make in the world. You must have got your feet damp last night, said Lady Coote. I hope you won't get pneumonia. Freddie Richards died of it the other day. Dear me, Oswald, it makes my blood run cold to think of you wandering about with a dangerous burglar loose in the grounds. He might have shot you. I've asked Mr. the Siger down for next weekend, by the way. Nonsense, said Sir Oswald. I won't have that young man in my house, do you hear, Maria? Why not? That's My business. I'm so sorry, dear, said Lady Coote placidly. I've asked him now, so it can't be helped. Pick up that ball of pink wool, will you, Oswald? Sir Oswald complied, his face black as thunder. He looked at his wife and hesitated. Lady Coote was placidly threading her wool needle. I particularly don't want the Sider down next weekend, he said at last. I've heard a good deal about him from Bateman. He was at school with him. What did Mr. Bateman say? He'd no good to say of him. In fact, he warned me very seriously against him. He did he? Said Lady Coote thoughtfully. And I have the highest respect for Bateman's judgment. I've never known him wrong. Dear me, said Lady Coote, what a mess I seem to have made of things. Of course, I should never have asked him if I had known. You should have told me all this before, Oswald. It's too late now. She began to roll up her work very carefully. Sir Oswald looked at her, made as if to speak, then shrugged his shoulders. He followed her into the house. Lady Coote, walking ahead, wore a very faint smile on her face. She was fond of her husband, but she was also fond in a quiet, unobtrusive, wholly womanly manner of getting her own way. Chapter 26. Mainly about golf. That friend of yours is a nice girl, Bundle, said Lord Caterham. Lorraine had been at Chimneys for nearly a week, and had earned the high opinion of her host mainly because of the charming readiness she had shown to be instructed in the science of the mashie shot. Bored by his winter abroad, Lord Caterham had taken up golf. He was an execrable player and in consequence was profoundly enthusiastic over the game. He spent most of his mornings lofting mashie shots over various shrubs and bushes, or, rather, essaying to loft them, hacking large bits out of the velvety turf, and generally reducing MacDonald to despair. We must lay out a little course, said Lord Caterham, addressing a daisy. A sporting little course. Now then, just watch this one, Bundle. Off the right knee, slow back, keep the head still and use the wrists. The ball, heavily topped, scudded across the lawn and disappeared into the unfathomed depths of a great bank of rhododendrons. Curious, said Lord Caterham. What did I do then, I wonder? As I was saying, Bundle, that friend of yours is a very nice girl. I really think I am inducing her to take quite an interest in the game. She hit some excellent shots this morning, really quite as good as I could do myself. Lord Caterham took another careless swing and removed an immense chunk of turf. MacDonald, who was passing, retrieved it and stamped it firmly back. The look he gave Lord Caterham would have caused anyone but an ardent golfer to sink through the earth. If MacDonald has been guilty of cruelty to Coots, which I strongly suspect, said Bundle, he's being punished now. Why shouldn't I do as I like in my own garden? Demanded her father. MacDonald ought to be interested in the way my game is coming on. The Scotch are a great golfing nation. You poor old man, said Bundle. You'll never be a golfer, but at any rate it keeps you out of mischief. Not at all, said Lord Caterham. I did the long 6th in 5 the other day. The pro was very surprised when I told him about it. He would be, said Bundle. Talking of Coots, Sir Oswald plays a fair game, a very fair game. Not a pretty style too stiff, but straight down the middle every time. But curious how the cloven hoof shows won't give you a 6-inch putt. Makes you put it in every time. Now I don't like that. I suppose he's a man who likes to be sure, said Bundle. It's contrary to the spirit of the game, said her father. And he's not interested in the theory of the thing either. Says he just plays for exercise and doesn't bother about style. Now, that secretary chap, Bateman, is quite different. It's the theory interests him. I was slicing badly with my spoon, and he said it all came from too much right arm, and he evolved a very interesting theory. It's all left arm in golf. The left arm is the arm that counts. He says he plays tennis left-handed but golf with ordinary clubs because his superiority with the left arm tells. And did he play very marvelously? Inquired Bundle. No, he didn't, confessed Lord Caterham. But then he may have been off his game. I see the theory all right, and I think there's a lot in it. Ah, did you see that one, Bundle? Right over the rhododendrons. A perfect shot. Ah, if one could be sure of doing that every time. Yes, Treadwell, what is it? Treadwell addressed Bundle. Mr. the Siger would like to speak to you on the telephone, my lady. Bundle set off at full speed for the house, yelling Loring, Loring, as she did so. Loring joined her just as she was lifting the receiver. Hallo, is that you, Jimmy? Hallo, how are you? Very fit but a bit bored. How's Loring? She's all right, she's here. Do you want to speak to her? In a minute. I've got a lot to say. To begin with, I'm going down to the Coots for the weekend, he said significantly. Now, look here, Bundle, you don't know how one gets hold of skeleton keys, do you? Haven't the foggiest. Is it really necessary to take skeleton keys to the Coots? Well, I had a sort of idea they'd come in handy. You don't know the sort of shop one gets them at. What you want is a kindly burglar friend to show you the ropes. I do, Bundle, I do. And unfortunately, I haven't got one. I thought perhaps your bright brain might grapple successfully with the problem. But I suppose I shall have to fall back upon Stevens as usual. He'll be getting some funny ideas in his head soon about me, first a blue-nosed automatic and now skeleton keys. He'll think I've joined the criminal classes. Jimmy, said Bundle. Yes. Look here, be careful, won't you? I mean, if Sir Oswald finds you nosing around with skeleton keys, well, I should think he could be very unpleasant when he likes. Young man of pleasing appearance in the dock. All right, I'll be careful. Pongo's the fellow I'm really frightened of. He sneaks around so on those flat feet of his. You never hear him coming. And he always did have a genius for poking his nose in where he wasn't wanted, but trust to the boy hero. Well, I wish Loring and I were going to be there to look after you. Thank you, nurse. As a matter of fact, though, I have a scheme. Yes. Do you think you and Loring might have a convenient car breakdown near Leatherbury tomorrow morning? It's not so very far from you, is it? 40 miles, that's nothing. I thought it wouldn't be to you. Don't kill Loring, though. I'm rather fond of Loring. All right, then somewhere round about 12:15. So that they invite us to lunch. That's the idea. I say, Bundle, I ran into that girl's socks yesterday, and what do you think Terence O'Rourke is going to be down there this weekend? Jimmy, do you think he? Well, suspect everyone, you know, that's what they say. He's a wild lad and daring as they make them. I wouldn't put it past him to run a secret society. He and the Countess might be in this together. He was out in Hungary last year. But he could pinch the formula any time. That's just what he couldn't. He'd have to do it under circumstances where he couldn't be suspected. But the retreat up the ivy and into his own bed, well, that would be rather neat. Now for instructions. After a few polite nothings to Lady Coote, you and Loring are to get hold of Pongo and O'Rourke by hook or by crook and keep them occupied till lunch time. See, it oughtn't to be difficult for a couple of beautiful girls like you. You're using the best butter, I see. A plain statement of fact. Well, at any rate, your instructions are duly noted. Do you want to talk to Loring now? Bundle passed over the receiver and tactfully left the room. Chapter 27. Nocturnal adventure. Jimmy the Sidger arrived at Leatherbury on a sunny autumn afternoon and was greeted affectionately by Lady Coote and with cold dislike by Sir Oswald. Aware of the keen matchmaking eye of Lady Coote upon him, Jimmy took pains to make himself extremely agreeable to Socks Daventry. O'Rourke was there in excellent spirits. He was inclined to be official and secretive about the mysterious events at the Abbey, about which Socks catechized him freely, but his official reticence took a novel form, namely that of embroidering the tale of events in such a fantastic manner that nobody could possibly guess what the truth might have been. 4 masked men with revolvers. Is that really so? Demanded Socks severely. Ah, I'm remembering now that there was the round half-dozen of them to hold me down and force the stuff down my throat. Sure, and I thought it was poison, and I done for entirely. And what was stolen, or what did they try and steal? What else but the crown jewels of Russia that were brought to Mr. Lomax secretly to deposit in the Bank of England? What a bloody liar you are, said Socks without emotion. A liar, I, and the jewels brought over by aeroplane with my best friend as pilot. This is secret history I'm telling you, Socks. Will you ask Jimmy the Sidger there if you don't believe me? Not that I'd be putting any trust in what he'd say. Is it true, said Socks, that George Lomax came down without his false teeth? That's what I want to know. There were 2 revolvers, said Lady Coote. Nasty things, I saw them myself. It's a wonder this poor boy wasn't killed. Oh, I was born to be hanged, said Jimmy. I hear that there was a Russian countess there of subtle beauty, said Socks, and that she vamped Bill. Some of the things she said about Budapest were too dreadful, said Lady Coote. I shall never forget them. Oswald, we must send a subscription. Sir Oswald grunted. I'll make a note of it, Lady Coote, said Rupert Bateman. Thank you, Mr. Bateman. I feel one ought to do something as a thank offering. I can't imagine how Sir Oswald escaped being shot letting alone die of pneumonia. Don't be foolish, Maria, said Sir Oswald. I've always had a horror of cat burglars, said Lady Coote. Think of having the luck to meet one face to face. How thrilling, murmured Socks. Don't you believe it, said Jimmy. It's damned painful, and he patted his right arm gingerly. How is the poor arm? Inquired Lady Coote. Oh, pretty well all right now, but it's been the most confounded nuisance having to do everything with the left hand. I'm no good whatever with it. Every child should be brought up to be ambidextrous, said Sir Oswald. Oh, said Socks, somewhat out of her depth, is that like seals? Not amphibious, said Mr. Bateman. Ambidextrous means using either hand equally well. Oh, said Socks, looking at Sir Oswald with respect, can you? Certainly, I can write with either hand. But not with both at once. That would not be practical, said Sir Oswald shortly. No, said Socks thoughtfully. I suppose that would be a bit too subtle. It would be a grand thing now in a government department, observed Mr. O'Rourke, if one could keep the right hand from knowing what the left hand was doing. Can you use both hands? No, indeed. I'm the most right-handed person that ever was. But you deal cards with your left hand, said the observant Bateman. I noticed the other night. Oh, but that's different entirely, said Mr. O'Rourke easily. A gong with a somber note pealed out, and everyone went upstairs to dress for dinner. After dinner, Sir Oswald and Lady Coote, Mr. Bateman and Mr. O'Rourke played bridge, and Jimmy passed a flirtatious evening with Socks. The last words Jimmy heard as he retreated up the staircase that night were Sir Oswald saying to his wife, "You'll never make a bridge player, Maria." And her reply, "I know, dear, so you always say. You owe Mr. O'Rourke another £1, Oswald, that's right." It was some 2 hours later that Jimmy crept noiselessly, or so he hoped, down the stairs. He made one brief visit to the dining room and then found his way to Sir Oswald's study. There, after listening intently for a minute or two, he set to work. Most of the drawers of the desk were locked, but a curiously shaped bit of wire in Jimmy's hand soon saw to that. One by one, the drawers yielded to his manipulations. Drawer by drawer he sorted through methodically, being careful to replace everything in the same order. Once or twice he stopped to listen, fancying he heard some distant sound, but he remained undisturbed. The last drawer was looked through. Jimmy now knew or could have known had he been paying attention many interesting details relating to steel, but he had found nothing of what he wanted, a reference to Herr Eberhard's invention, or anything that could give him a clue to the identity of the mysterious number 7. He had, perhaps, hardly hoped that he would. It was an off chance, and he had taken it, but he had not expected much result except by sheer luck. He tested the drawers to make sure that he had relocked them securely. He knew Rupert Bateman's powers of minute observation, and glanced round the room to make sure that he had left no incriminating trace of his presence. "That's that," he muttered to himself softly. "Nothing there. Well, perhaps I'll have better luck tomorrow morning if the girls only play up." He came out of the study, closing the door behind him and locking it. For a moment he thought he heard a sound quite near him, but decided he had been mistaken. He felt his way noiselessly along the great hall. Just enough light came from the high vaulted windows to enable him to pick his way without stumbling into anything. Again he heard a soft sound. He heard it quite certainly this time, and without the possibility of making a mistake. He was not alone in the hall. Somebody else was there, moving as stealthily as he was. His heart beat suddenly very fast. With a sudden spring, he jumped to the electric switch and turned on the lights. The sudden glare made him blink, but he saw plainly enough. Not 4 feet away stood Rupert Bateman. "My goodness, Pongo," cried Jimmy, "you did give me a start, slinking about like that in the dark." "I heard a noise," explained Mr. Bateman severely. "I thought burglars had got in and I came down to see." Jimmy looked thoughtfully at Mr. Bateman's rubber-soled feet. "You think of everything, Pongo," he said genially, "even a lethal weapon." His eye rested on the bulge in the other's pocket. "It's as well to be armed. One never knows whom one may meet." "I am glad you didn't shoot," said Jimmy. "I'm a bit tired of being shot at." "I might easily have done so," said Mr. Bateman. "It would be dead against the law if you did," said Jimmy. "You've got to make quite sure the beggar's housebreaking, you know, before you pot at him. You mustn't jump to conclusions. Otherwise you'd have to explain why you shot a guest on a perfectly innocent errand like mine. By the way, what did you come down for?" "I was hungry," said Jimmy. "I rather fancied a dry biscuit." "There are some biscuits in a tin by your bed," said Rupert Bateman. He was staring at Jimmy very intently through his horn-rimmed spectacles. "Ah, that's where the staff work has gone wrong, old boy. There's a tin there with biscuits for starving visitors on it. But when the starving visitor opened it, nothing inside. So I just toddled down to the dining room." And with a sweet, ingenuous smile, Jimmy produced from his dressing-gown pocket a handful of biscuits. There was a moment's pause. "And now I think I'll toddle back to bed," said Jimmy. "Night-night, Pongo." With an affectation of nonchalance, he mounted the staircase. Rupert Bateman followed him, At the doorway of his room, Jimmy paused as if to say good night once more. "It's an extraordinary thing about these biscuits," said Mr. Bateman. "Do you mind if I just—" "Certainly, laddie, look for yourself." Mr. Bateman strode across the room, opened the biscuit box and stared at its emptiness. "Very remiss," he murmured. "Well, good night." He withdrew. Jimmy sat on the edge of his bed listening for a minute. "That was a narrow shave," he murmured to himself. "Suspicious sort of chap, Pongo, never seems to sleep. Nasty habit of his prowling around with a revolver." He got up and opened one of the drawers of the dressing table. Beneath an assortment of ties lay a pile of biscuits. "There's nothing for it," said Jimmy. "I shall have to eat all the damned things. 10 to 1, Pongo will come prowling round in the morning." With a sigh, he settled down to a meal of biscuits for which he had no inclination whatever. Chapter 28. Suspicions. It was just on the appointed hour of 12 o'clock that Bundle and Loring entered the park gates, having left the Hispano at an adjacent garage. Lady Coote greeted the two girls with surprise but distinct pleasure, and immediately pressed them to stay to lunch. O'Rourke, who had been reclining in an immense armchair, began at once to talk with great animation to Loring, who was listening with half an ear to Bundle's highly technical explanation of the mechanical troubles which had affected the Hispano. "And we said," ended Bundle, "how marvelous that the brute should have broken down just here. Last time it happened was on a Sunday at a place called Little Spedlington under the hill, and it lived up to its name, I can tell you." "That would be a grand name on the films," remarked O'Rourke. "Birthplace of the simple country maiden," suggested Socks. "I wonder now," said Lady Coote, "where Mr. the Siger is." "He's in the billiard room, I think," said Socks. "I'll fetch him." She went off, but had hardly gone a minute when Rupert Bateman appeared on the scene, with the harassed and serious air usual with him. "Yes, Lady Coote. The Siger said you were asking for me. How do you do, Lady Eileen?" He broke off to greet the two girls, and Loring immediately took the field. "Oh, Mr. Bateman, I've been wanting to see you. Wasn't it you who was telling me what to do for a dog when he is continually getting sore paws?" The secretary shook his head. "It must have been someone else, Miss Wade, though, as a matter of fact, I do happen to know." "What a wonderful young man you are," interrupted Loring. "You know about everything." "One should keep abreast of modern knowledge," said Mr. Bateman seriously. "Now about your dog's paws." Terence O'Rourke murmured sotto voce to Bundle. "'Tis a man like that writes all those little paragraphs in the weekly papers. It is not generally known that to keep a brass fender uniformly bright, etc. The Dorper beetle is one of the most interesting characters in the insect world, the marriage customs of the Fingalese Indians, and so on. General information, in fact." "And what more horrible 2 words could you have?" said Mr. O'Rourke, and added piously, "Thank the heavens above I'm an educated man and know nothing whatever upon any subject at all." "I see you've got clock golf here," said Bundle to Lady Coote. "I'll take you on at it, Lady Eileen," said O'Rourke. "Let's challenge those two," said Bundle. "Loring, Mr. O'Rourke and I want to take you and Mr. Bateman on at clock golf." "Do play, Mr. Bateman," said Lady Coote, as the secretary showed a momentary hesitation. "I'm sure Sir Oswald doesn't want you." The 4 went out on the lawn. "Very cleverly managed, what?" whispered Bundle to Loring. "Congratulations on our girlish tact." The round ended just before 1 o'clock, victory going to Bateman and Loring. "But I think you'll agree with me, partner," said Mr. O'Rourke, "that we played a more sporting game." He lagged a little behind with Bundle. "Old Pongo's a cautious player, he takes no risks. Now with me it's neck or nothing. And a fine motto through life, don't you agree, Lady Eileen?" "Hasn't it ever landed you in trouble?" asked Bundle, laughing. "To be sure it has, millions of times, but I'm still going strong. Sure, it'll take the hangman's noose to defeat Terence O'Rourke." Just then, Jimmy the Sidger strolled round the corner of the house. "Bundle, by all that's wonderful," he exclaimed. "You've missed competing in the autumn meeting," said O'Rourke. "I'd gone for a stroll," said Jimmy. "Where did these girls drop from?" "We came on our flat feet," said Bundle. "The Hispano let us down." And she narrated the circumstances of the breakdown. Jimmy listened with sympathetic attention. "Hard luck," he vouchsafed. "If it's going to take some time, I'll run you back in my car after lunch." A gong sounded at that moment and they all went in. Bundle observed Jimmy covertly. She thought she had noticed an unusual note of exultance in his voice. She had the feeling that things had gone well. After lunch, they took a polite leave of Lady Coote, and Jimmy volunteered to run them down to the garage in his car. As soon as they had started, the same word burst simultaneously from both girls' lips. "Well," Jimmy chose to be provoking. "Well, oh, pretty hearty, thanks. Slight indigestion owing to overindulgence in dry biscuits." "But what has happened?" "I tell you, devotion to the cause made me eat too many dry biscuits, but did our hero flinch? No, he did not." "Oh, Jimmy," said Lorraine reproachfully, and he softened. "What do you really want to know?" "Oh, everything. Didn't we do it well? I mean the way we kept Pongo and Terence O'Rourke in play." "I congratulate you on the handling of Pongo. O'Rourke was probably a sitter, but Pongo is made of other stuff. There's only one word for that lad. It was in the Sunday Newsbag crossword last week. Word of 10 letters meaning everywhere at once. Ubiquitous. That describes Pongo down to the ground. You can't go anywhere without running into him, and the worst of it is you never hear him coming." "You think he's dangerous?" "Dangerous? Of course he's not dangerous. Fancy Pongo being dangerous. He's an ass. But as I said just now, he's an ubiquitous ass. He doesn't even seem to need sleep like ordinary mortals. In fact, to put it bluntly, the fellow's a damned nuisance." And in a somewhat aggrieved manner, Jimmy described the events of the previous evening. Bundle was not very sympathetic. "I don't know what you think you're doing anyway, mouching round here." "Number 7, said Jimmy crisply. "That's what I'm after, number 7. And you think you'll find him in this house?" "I thought I might find a clue." "And you didn't?" "Not last night, no." "But this morning," said Lauren, breaking in suddenly. "Jimmy, you did find something this morning. I can see it by your face." "Well, I don't know if it is anything, but during the course of my stroll." "Which stroll didn't take you far from the house, I imagine." "Strangely enough, it didn't. Round trip in the interior, we might call it. Well, as I say, I don't know whether there's anything in it or not, but I found this." With the celerity of a conjurer, he produced a small bottle and tossed it over to the girls. It was half full of a white powder. "What do you think it is?" asked Bundle. "A white crystalline powder, that's what it is," said Jimmy. And to any reader of detective fiction, those words are both familiar and suggestive. Of course, if it turns out to be a new kind of patent tooth powder, I shall be chagrined and annoyed. "Where did you find it?" asked Bundle sharply. "Ah," said Jimmy, "that's my secret." And from that point he would not budge in spite of cajolery and insult. "Here we are at the garage," he said. "Let's hope the high-mettled Hispano has not been subjected to any indignities." The gentleman at the garage presented a bill for 5 shillings and made a few vague remarks about loose nuts. Bundle paid him with a sweet smile. "It's nice to know we all get money for nothing sometimes," she murmured to Jimmy. The three stood together in the road, silent for the moment as they each pondered the situation. "I know," said Bundle suddenly. "Know what?" "Something I meant to ask you and nearly forgot. Do you remember that glove that Superintendent Battle found, the half-burnt one?" "Yes." "Didn't you say that he tried it on your hand?" "Yes, it was a shade big. That fits in with the idea of its being a big, hefty man who wore it." "That's not at all what I'm bothering about. Never mind the size of it. George and Sir Oswald were both there too, weren't they?" "Yes." "He could have given it to either of them to fit on." "Yes, of course." "But he didn't. He chose you. Jimmy, don't you see what that means?" Mr. the Siger stared at her. "I'm sorry, Bundle. Possibly the jolly old brain isn't functioning as well as usual, but I haven't the faintest idea what you're talking about." "Don't you see, Lauren?" Lauren looked at her curiously but shook her head. "Does it mean anything in particular?" "Of course it does. Don't you see Jimmy had his right hand in a sling?" "By Jove, Bundle," said Jimmy slowly. "It was rather odd now I come to think of it. It's being a left-hand glove, I mean. Battle never said anything. He wasn't going to draw attention to it. By trying it on you it might pass without notice being drawn to it, and he talked about the size just to put everybody off. But surely it must mean that the man who shot at you held the pistol in his left hand." "So we've got to look for a left-handed man," said Loring thoughtfully. "Yes. And I'll tell you another thing. That was what Battle was doing looking through the golf clubs. He was looking for a left-handed man's." "By Jove," said Jimmy suddenly. "What is it?" "Well, I don't suppose there's anything in it, but it's rather curious." He retailed the conversation at tea the day before. "So Sir Oswald Coote is ambidextrous," said Bundle. "Yes, and I remember now on that night at Chimneys, you know, the night Jerry Wade died, I was watching the bridge and thinking idly how awkwardly someone was dealing in, then realizing that it was because they were dealing with the left hand. Of course, it must have been Sir Oswald." They all three looked at each other. Loring shook her head. "A man like Sir Oswald Coote, it's impossible. What could he have to gain by it?" "It seems absurd," said Jimmy, "and yet—" "Number 7 has his own ways of working," quoted Bundle softly. "Supposing this is the way Sir Oswald has really made his fortune. But why stage all that comedy at the Abbey when he'd had the formula at his own works?" "There might be ways of explaining that," said Loring. "The same line of argument you used about Mr. O'Rourke. Suspicion had to be diverted from him and placed in another quarter." Bundle nodded eagerly. "It all fits in. Suspicion is to fall on Bower and the Countess. Who on earth would ever dream of suspecting Sir Oswald Coote?" "I wonder if Battle does," said Jimmy slowly. Some chord of memory vibrated in Bundle's mind. Superintendent Battle plucking an ivy leaf off the millionaire's coat. Had Battle suspected all the time?